All right, let's just jump right in. Generative AI, I mean, it's everywhere now, right? It's getting plugged into our work so fast. But, and this is something we've all run into, it's not perfect. And the weirdest part isn't that it messes up, it's how it messes up. It's this kind of unpredictable, really uneven performance that we've got to wrap our heads around.
And you know what? This quote from economist Joshua Gans just hits the nail on the head. He says, a model can give you this perfect, crisp answer, and then on a prompt that looks almost the same, it spits out something that sounds totally plausible, but is just confidently wrong. I mean, we've all been there, right? It's super common, and let's be honest, it's incredibly frustrating.
It's so true, isn't it? It feels like your AI has this complete split personality. 1 second, it's an absolute genius, and the next, it's just making stuff up. The thing is, this isn't some random bug. It's actually a core feature of how these systems work. And yep, it has a name.
And that name is Artificial Jagged Intelligence, or AGI for short. Just think about that for a second. It's this landscape of incredible skill right next to these deep, deep holes of just error. Understanding this jaggedness, this up and down performance, is absolutely crucial if we want to actually use AI effectively and, safely.
So how do we really get our heads around this? Well, the paper we're looking at proposes this fantastic metaphor. Let's call it the bridge of knowledge. Okay, so picture this. Imagine that the task space, I'm talking every single question you could possibly ask an AI, is like a huge, wide river that you have to get across.
Now, the things the AI actually knows from its training data, the solid facts it has down cold, those are like sturdy pylons. You know, the big support posts driven deep into that riverbed? These are its stable points of knowledge.
So when you ask a totally new question, one it hasn't seen before, you're not asking it to pull something from memory. What you're really asking it to do is stretch a plank between the two closest pylons it has. It's basically guessing, right? It's interpolating an answer based on what it knows on either side. And this is where we get to the heart of the problem. What happens when those pylons are really far apart? I mean, a short plank between two close pylons, super sturdy, totally safe. But a long, flimsy plank stretched way out between distant pylons? Yeah, that's going to be wobbly, it's going to be flexible, it's going to be dangerous. And that is where those confident but completely wrong answers come from. Okay, so this leads to a really interesting question, right? If these models score so well on all the standard tests and benchmarks, why does our own experience with them often feel so unreliable? It turns out it's not just you. There's a real reason for this.
To really see why, let's use a super simple example. Imagine our bridge is built in this repeating pattern. You've got one short, safe 2-meter plank, and that's followed by one long, pretty dangerous 8-meter plank, over and over.
All right, now if you're an engineer just looking at the blueprints, you might do the math and say, okay, the average gap size is 5 meters. And if your safety rule is something like, hey, anything under 6 meters is good to go, you'd sign off on it. The bridge passes the test. This is kind of like a benchmark score. On paper, on average, it looks pretty good.
But now, think about what it's like to actually walk across that bridge. You're going to spend most of your time, like 80% of your journey, on those long, wobbly 8-meter spans. So your experienced average gap size isn't 5 meters at all. It's actually more like 6.8 meters. And that is well into the danger zone. You feel the risk way more than that simple average would ever suggest.
And this difference, this gap between the blueprint and the experience, actually has a name. It's called the inspection paradox, because the AI's weaknesses, those long, dangerous gaps between its knowledge points, they literally take up more space. We as users are just statistically way more likely to land in one of them. It means we are fundamentally overexposed to the AI's flaws.
So the big question is, if we want to make this bridge safer, what can we actually do about it? The paper lays out 3 really different ways to tackle this. So this table breaks it down nicely. First up, you've got scaling. Think of this as just adding more and more pylons everywhere. It shrinks all the gaps and improves the average reliability. Then there's regularity. This is more strategic. It's about finding those super long, dangerous spans and adding support right where it's needed most. And then there's a totally different approach, calibration. This is like saying, okay, instead of fixing the bridge, let's just give the user a map that clearly shows where all the weak spots are so you can just walk around them.
You see, this whole AGI perspective really changes how we should be thinking about AI progress. The old way was all about chasing a higher average score on a test. The new AGI view says, hold on, what we really care about is reliability across all kinds of different tasks. It recognizes that our experience is biased, that we're going to run into those weak spots more often. So the real friction point here isn't just the model versus the benchmark, it's the benchmark versus the risk we actually experience as users.
But this isn't just a story about the tech itself. Not at all. A massive piece of this puzzle is us, the user. So how do we learn to get across this jagged landscape?
Well, we develop what the paper calls mastery. Basically, through a lot of trial and error, we build our own mental map of the bridge. We learn where the safe parts are and where the really sketchy parts are. But this creates a super interesting new problem, the abstention trap. See, once we learn that a certain kind of question gives us garbage results, what do? We just stop asking it. The trap is that a future AI update might actually fix that exact weakness, but we'd never find out because we've already trained ourselves to avoid that part of the bridge entirely. The AI's improvements can literally become invisible to us.
And that leaves us with this really critical question for the future of AI. What's actually more important? Is the goal just to make AI smarter on average, to just keep adding more and more pylons to the bridge? Or is it just as important to focus on making the bridge we already have more predictable, more uniform, and maybe most importantly, giving us the map to navigate it safely? That's the real choice we have to make at the heart of this jagged frontier.